In this video, I'm going to prove to you that Cars 4 not only can happen but is closer than you think. And will Doc Hudson appear in Cars 4? Will we see the return of this beloved character from the franchise? There are many details in the Cars universe, especially in Cars 3 and the series Cars on the Road, that prove Cars 4 is bound to happen sooner or later. The first clue is the D23 event. At D23, Disney announced that 2 new Cars attractions will be coming to Disney parks. Construction will begin next year. One will be more for adults, where it will be a rally race up a mountain, and the other will be more for kids, but they haven't given many details about it yet. Why is Disney now creating a Cars attraction after so many years of not doing anything related to cars in the parks? This is just the tip of the iceberg, because the bigger evidence, which I'll discuss in a bit, is in Cars 3. I recently watched this film to make this video, and I noticed things that I doubt you picked up on. Don't forget to leave a like because your support is crucial for the channel. Let's talk about Cars. I'm passionate about this franchise. The clues for Cars 4 were right there in Cars 3, and you didn't even notice. Now, you might be thinking, how can this be? Man, the story of Cars is already wrapped up. McQueen retires, becomes Cruz's coach, and the story is over. If you look at it that way, yes, the story ended. Well, what about Toy Story 3? Toy Story 3 had wrapped up the story of that franchise, and then Pixar went ahead and made Toy Story 4, which wrapped up the story again, and now we're getting Toy Story 5. Any franchise can get a new sequel. If they want to make a new film, they will. Toy Story is the biggest evidence of that. It ended with the 3rd one, and now we're heading into the 5th. They've closed the franchise twice, and they're going to close it for the 3rd time, and who knows, maybe we'll get a Toy Story 6 in a few years. In this video, I'm going to prove to you that Cars 4 can definitely happen. But first, if you're new here and love cars, love animations, and movies, then this is your channel. In Cars 4, we want to see McQueen racing. No one wants to see McQueen as just a coach, right? I don't. The story was beautiful, his arc was incredibly moving and emotional, but to me, it happened way too quickly. McQueen went from a rookie to a coach in 3 films, which felt too fast. The 3rd movie skips over so much that could have been explored in a 4th film, or maybe even a 5th. Let's stop and think here. McQueen has 7 Piston Cups, and we never saw this guy win. We see him winning a few races at the start of the 3rd film, and in Cars 2, he only wins a single stage of the Grand Prix, and that's it. We've never seen McQueen win a trophy like we saw Chick Hicks in the 1st film or Cruz winning in the 3rd. They could easily bring McQueen back to racing. Just swap out his engine. There's no excuse, and it's nonsense to say the parts are old. We're talking about a world where Toy Story 5 is happening, so it's possible to swap out McQueen's engine. All they have to do is decide to do it. Dusty Crophopper changes his engine in the Planes movie. Besides bringing McQueen back to the tracks, we really want to see a wedding between him and Sally. The two have been flirting since the 1st film. If you don't believe McQueen will return to racing, I'm going to prove it to you now with all the evidence that Cars 3 has shown us from the start, and we just never noticed. You're going to be blown away. I'm serious. Everyone knows that Tex is the creator of Dinoco, the owner of Dinoco. He always wanted the best racers with him racing for Dinoco. McQueen's goal in the 1st movie is to win the race to get the sponsorship, but as everyone knows, he doesn't accept it and instead decides to stay with Rusty's. In the 3rd movie, Tex approaches Cruz, who wins the race, and makes her an offer. Sterling, who was all confident, wanted McQueen to stop racing whenever he wanted. He just wanted McQueen to sell toys and merchandise. McQueen wasn't interested in that. Then Tex, the owner of Dinoco, calls Sterling over for a chat. Another super important detail. At this point in the story, Sterling had bought Rusty's from the brothers who launched Lightning McQueen. But at the end of the 3rd movie, Tex buys Rusty's, saying, "I made Sterling an offer he couldn't refuse.
I made that Sterling fella a Texas-sized offer."
So, from the end of the 3rd movie, Tex owns both Dinoco and Rusty's. Now let me show you, McQueen is no longer going to be Cruz Ramirez's coach. Fortunately, McQueen will continue racing for Rusty's, while Cruz will be the racer for Dinoco, and both of them will be under Texas. McQueen will keep racing, and there's there's a lot more evidence of this. What happens at the end of the third movie? Cruz Ramirez and Lightning McQueen have a race at Radiator Springs. Pay close attention to this detail that's been right in front of us the whole time. Look at McQueen and you'll see Rusty's on him. Now, look at Cruz and you'll see Dinoco on her. Notice these clues. Both of them are going to race. Texas always liked McQueen. That's clear. He wants McQueen back and also wants Cruz to race for Dinoco. But the two couldn't race for the same brand. So, Tex separates them, but both companies, Rusty's and Dinoco, belong to Tex, who, as you can tell, has a lot of money. Tex has always been wealthy, and he's the one who will invest in and upgrade McQueen's engine. It's Tex who will put a powerful engine in McQueen and relaunch him on the tracks. Tex is smart. He wants to make a lot of money, and he's always liked McQueen. That's obvious to everyone. Now, the question is, Cruz and McQueen are going to race against each other. One represents Dinoco, the other represents Rusty's. Both are under Tex, but each one is separate. McQueen and Cruz are no longer a team starting from Cars 4. Do you see how Cars 4 is just around the corner? It's closer than you think. It even gives you chills. And what about Doc Hudson? He's a beloved, nostalgic character. Everyone loves this guy, and he was very important to the franchise overall. In the first movie, he's an incredible character with a plot twist that no one expected. He's a great champion, a 3-time Piston Cup winner, and was McQueen's mentor. Without him, many things would have been different in McQueen's life, career, and both his personal and professional journeys. Doc Hudson made a huge difference not only for McQueen, but for racing in general. He became a part of racing history, Piston Cup history, and the history of Radiator Springs. So, he's a memorable, beloved character. Unfortunately, we didn't have him in the second and third movies because the actor who voiced Doc passed away after the first film. Pixar paid tribute by removing the character, as they could have simply replaced the voice actor. Out of respect, they took the character out, and Doc Hudson's death is incorporated into the Cars franchise to explain what happened to the voice actor. In Cars 2 and Cars 3, there are some flashbacks, some mentions, they talk about Doc, think about him, there are some images, but they're just flashbacks and nostalgia. Now, will Pixar bring Doc Hudson back, not just in flashbacks, for Cars 4? I'm not sure. Actually, I believe they will continue doing what they did in the second and third Cars movies. There will be flashbacks, nostalgia, and memories of Doc Hudson, but I don't think the character Doc Hudson will appear as he did in the first movie. Otherwise, they would undo everything they built, the legacy, the tribute they made to the voice actor in the second and third films. So, I believe Pixar will stick to what they've done. For me, Doc Hudson has a good chance of appearing, but only in flashbacks, without disrupting the narrative of Cars 2 and Cars 3, keeping the character in the franchise because we really love Doc Hudson. Now, if we talk about box office, which is another interesting point regarding Cars, it's a franchise that didn't perform exceptionally well at the box office. Cars 1 made decent money back in 2006. It was good. Compared to Inside Out, which almost hit $1.5 billion, it was modest, but Cars 2 made more money, around $500 million, more than Cars 1. And Cars 3 made a bit more than Cars 1, but less than Cars 2. How do we understand this logic? I'll explain. Cars 1 was something new. In 2006, there were still few animated films. They released Cars 1, and it was a success. Then Cars 2 came out, and everyone who liked Cars 1 thought, Lightning McQueen, let's watch Cars 2. What will happen? They watched it, but there was a big disappointment. Cars 2 has positive aspects, but it completely deviates from the story of the first movie. Cars 2 is practically a solo film, a spin-off of Mater. It loses all the narrative built in Cars 1, and many people were disappointed. When they released the third one, which returned to the narrative of the first, it was as if the second movie was a collective hallucination in Mater's head. Cars 3 had weaker box office numbers than Cars 2 because people assumed Cars 3 would be in the style of Cars 2, but it wasn't. It was more in line with Cars 1, and after it left theaters and went to Disney Plus and DVD, people started watching the franchise more. It didn't do as well in cinemas, but outside of them, the film was very successful. The franchise is beloved, with several Mater shorts, the Cars on the Road series, which has been slow to get a second season, and various products like toys, clothes, and more from Cars, which sell very well. all. Pixar makes a lot of money every year just from Cars products. So, it's a very beloved franchise that will continue to grow and be explored even more. Pixar and Disney haven't officially announced Cars 4 yet, like they did with Toy Story 5 and The Incredibles 3, but the clues are there. Cars 3 clearly showed this. For sure, sooner or later, Cars 4 will happen. I strongly believe that this sequel will emerge at some point, but they haven't mentioned it yet. Even though it hasn't been announced, Cars 4 will happen. They're not announcing it now because they've already announced Toy Story 5, The Incredibles 3, Moana 2, Mufasa, Snow White, a lot of things, like Lilo and Stitch and Frozen 3 and Frozen 4. They're going to take it slow, let the dust settle a bit, get people excited about these movies, and then later they'll release Cars 4 and a bunch of other sequels. I think maybe in a year and a half we'll have some idea of when an official Disney announcement might be released. So far, there's nothing, but in a year or two, there might be some news, because everything points to it happening and being a success. It will surpass the box office of the other 3 films and become the highest grossing one because they're building a lot of hype for Lightning McQueen's return to the track. That's what we most want to see. And in this video, I talked a lot about Lightning McQueen's journey on the racetrack. Did you know his name isn't really Lightning McQueen? Click to discover his real name. And besides that, you might not know, but there are humans in the Cars universe, and they are inside the cars. Click here to better understand all of this. Thank you very much for watching this video. See you in the next video here on Cine Lovers.